New York City primaries are right around the corner, and many districts in the Bronx along the entire city are looking for changes as well as improvements. Now, here to shed some light on some of those issues, we welcome now the founder of political consulting group, Kemar Newman, and it's the Newman Political Consulting Group. And good to have you,
Sir,
Kemar.
thank you, thank you.
Good. So we talk here in the borough of the Bronx, obviously a lot of things to talk about, but this honestly is a busy time of year because, November will be the general election, but the primaries are equally as important because you got a lot of candidates out there in the field.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how important primaries are to picking the next elected official that's going to represent your districts. So as you can see, there's always a low turnout for primaries, but people got to understand how important it is because this is where you get to pick your new elected official rather than the incumbent that's still sitting in there for years and years.
And so when you talk about picking that elected official, obviously it starts with the primary process. Why are people not engaged really in the primary process?
Well, because not a lot of people are, registered to vote, and they don't realize that primaries are broken down for whatever party that you're in. And it's a Democratic primary that's coming up, and even though there's a lot of people that are registered in the Democratic Party, a lot of them don't come out because they don't realize how important it is to vote in primaries.
And so here in the Bronx, we got a couple of races going on, and I know that a lot of stuff were paying attention to it. I know you had your sheet out there. So
Yeah, I got my cheat sheet.
you got your cheat sheet out there, right? So what are some of the hot races that you're taking a look at here?
Well, I'm looking at, City Council District 13, 14, and 18 because there's just something about them that just doesn't sit right with me. And I'll definitely start off with 18 because, as you see, Senator Ruben Diaz Sr. is running for city council as if he wasn't a city councilman before. And I'm just trying to figure out the reason for him coming back to City Hall rather than staying in the State House or just retiring, because I could guarantee you he already has a very great pension.
Right. Well, I'll tell you because I interviewed him. This is what he told me, specifically right here, sitting where you're sitting right now. He says, I want to see the work that's been done in Albany. I want to see it finished, and the way that I can see it finished is by being a part of the city council.
I don't agree with that. I mean, he's part of the establishment, and it's time that you start putting in people that are new faces for the party because his generation has already did it. It's time to start pushing the younger electeds or district leaders into elected official positions so that they could start doing the work for the next generation to come.
Well, you got another councilman district race, which is right in the Fordham area. That's District 14, and you got the incumbent, which is Councilman Fernando Cabrera.
Oh, Fernando Cabrera. To my understanding, he had missed the last candidate forum that was at Monroe, and his excuse was because he was going around to National Night Out. And I completely get it. You have to support, NYPD because they have done a lot of great work throughout the city. But at the same time, you owe your constituent a reason for why they should essentially hire you to continue the job that you're already doing in city council. His opponent, Randy Abreu, who's a lawyer, he's running this very strong progressive agenda, this Bernie Sanders kind of agenda. And he's young. He's fired up, and I think he's going to be able to make a lot of change to the Bronx that needs to happen in the Bronx.
So you think he might possibly win?
It's difficult to say, but I think if he goes out there and he, speaks to constituents, gets their quality of life issues, and come up with a plan to address those quality of life issues rather than running on the progressive agenda. He needs to be running on the agenda of the people of his district.
Do you agree with the philosophy that a lot of people say, like when you have a primary, you have several candidates out there, it is probably the best time for anybody who's out there running, given the fact that with low voter turnout, you could possibly win a primary, given the fact that if you get a split ballot?
Well, yes, I've seen it happen. I agree with it. But at the same time, it doesn't really shows the majority of the district because you only have a few people that went out to vote, and the winner doesn't really represent the majority. So now you have someone that's going to be elected in November to represent that community, but they don't really represent the district because, again, it was just a low voter turnout that went in and voted for this individual.
I remember we had a political analyst on set one time, and he shared with us when it comes to voter turnout, it actually turns out to be in the borough of the Bronx, it would only seat a quarter of Yankee Stadium. Almost a quarter to, anywhere between a quarter to a half of Yankee Stadium, actual with the 1.4 million people, residents that are here, the people who are registered to actually to vote. What do you think is going to take for people to become more active and more engaged in this process that really a lot of people died for?
Well, it definitely starts at the White House. What we see right now with the Trump rhetoric and everything that has been going on, I think it's going to start pushing people to be more engaged and more politically inclined so that we don't make this kind of mistake again, because that's how I feel about the Trump White House. Is it was a mistake that he got in there. So if the White House continue with the way that they're going, we'll definitely start seeing a higher turnout when it comes to primaries and the general election.
Oh, so you feel like it's gonna trigger a lot more people coming out?
I think so.
More than the Obama presidency?
Possibly.
It's particularly in the area of minorities, because minorities, when they said that this is the first time to really have a reasonable shot since Jesse Jackson running for the presidency, you saw a high voter turnout in the Obama administration, but then or the Obama presidency. But then when we talk about this particular election, this last election, nearly 53% of eligible American voters didn't show up to the polls. What are we to make of that?
Well, we all sat at home thinking that, Hillary Clinton had this in the bag, that she was just going to win. And I remember sitting at home with my kids and watching on TV and just watching like the color being removed from everyone's face when they realized that, Hillary Clinton was going to lose this election. So when it comes to, again, to the voter turnout, after seeing what had happened in the presidential election and what's coming down, we had 2018 midterm elections, people are going to start coming out to vote because we've already seen what Trump is bringing to the table, and I don't think anybody wants to continue dealing with that.
All right, well, we'll take a look and see exactly what happens. Now, we do know that the time to get out to vote actually has been, well, I should say if you haven't registered yet, that deadline is actually passed. Going forward to the general election, do you have any predictions as to what we'll see?
Well, hopefully people start getting out to register so that they can vote in the general election. There's a lot of organizations out there that will be doing get out and vote and start doing a lot of registration for people to get out and vote. But my prediction is that, general election is just going to slip on by, and people are going to get ready for the congressional races that are coming next year.
All right, Kemar Newman, founder of the Newman Political Consulting Group. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, taking a quick break. We'll be back with more shows. Stay with us. We're coming right back right after this.